Jai Srila Prabhupada. So I just read the prayers first because anyway we have many verses to cover today. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanyamanam Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Mahyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Saharum Sadvaitam Savadhutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Sagana Lalita Shri Vishal He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Tanta Kanchana Gauraki Radhe Vasudeve Namavi Hari. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanavebhyo. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna. Vande Shri Guru Devatamaya Paramadhanam Shri Chaitanya Ishvara. So we'll start from verse number 63. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'll just read through from 60 to 70 myself. Then 71 we can recite together. Is that okay? That's all right. Vahnirvacha mukham veje noda tishtat tada virat pranena nasike vayu noda tishtat tada virat. The god of fire entered his mouth with the organ of speech, but the Virat Purusha could not be aroused. Then the god of wind entered his nostrils, the sense of smell, but still the Virat Purusha refused to be awakened. Akshini chakshusha dityo nutishtat tada virat shrotrena karno chadisho nodatishtat tada virat. The sun god entered the eyes of the Virat Purusha with the sense of sight, but still the Virat Purusha did not get up. Similarly, the predominating deities of the directions entered through his ears with the sense of hearing, but still he did not get up. Tvacham bromapir oshadyo nudatishtat tada virat retasa shishnama pastu nudatishtat tada virat. The predominating deities of the skin, herbs, and seasoning plants entered the skin of the Virat Purusha with the hair of the body, but the cosmic being refused to get up even then. The god predominating over water entered his organ of generation with the faculty of procreation, but the Virat Purusha still would not rise. Godam mrityur apanena nodatishta tada virat hasta indro balenaiva nodatishtat tada virat. The god of death entered his anus with the organ of defecation, but the Virat Purusha could not be spurred to activity. The god Indra entered the hands with their power of grasping and dropping things, but the Virat Purusha would not get up even then. Vishnur gatyeva charano nodatishta tada virat nadir nadyo lohitena nodatishta tada virat. Lord Vishnu entered his feet with the faculty of locomotion, but the Virat Purusha refused to stand up even then. The rivers entered his blood vessels with the blood and the power of circulation, but still the cosmic manifestation could not be made to stir. Kshutritbhyam udaram sindur nodatishta tada virat Hridayam manasa chandro nudatishta tada virat. The ocean entered his abdomen with hunger and thirst, but the cosmic being refused to rise even then. The moon god entered his mind, his heart with the mind, but the cosmic being would not be aroused. Buddhya Brahmapi Hridayam Nodatishta Tada Virat Rudro Bhimatya Hridayam Nodatishta Tada Virat. Brahma also entered his heart with intelligence, but even then the cosmic being could not be prevailed upon to get up. Lord Rudra also entered his heart with the ego, but even then the cosmic being did not stir. Chittena Hridayam Chittena Hridayam Chaitya Kshetragya Pravishad Yada Virat Tadeva Purusha Shalilat Udatishtatha. However, when the inner controller, the deity presiding over consciousness, entered the heart with reason, at that very moment the cosmic being arose from the causal waters. Yatha prasuptam purusham pranendriya manodhiya prabhavanti vinayena nota payatamojasa. Sorry, this is the one you're supposed to repeat. Yatha prasuptam purusham pranendriya manodhiya prabhavanti vinayena paitumojasa. Anyone to recite? Yatha prasuptam purusham pranendriya manodhiya prabhavanti vinayena nota paitumojasa. Yatha prasuptam purusham pranendriyam prabhavanti vinayena nota paitumojasa. Yatha prasuptam purusham pranendriyamanodhiya prabhavanti vinayena paitumojasa. Yatha, just as, prasuptam, sleeping, purusham, a man, prana, the vital air, indriya, the senses for working and recording knowledge, mana, the mind, dhiya, the intelligence. Sorry, just a minute. I stopped at intelligence, right? Yes. Prabhavanti, are able, vina, without, yena, whom, the super soul, na, not, utha payitu, to arouse, ojasa, by their own power. When a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working, the mind and the intelligence cannot arouse him. He can be aroused only when the super soul helps him. The explanation of Sankhya philosophy is described here in detail, in the sense that the Virat Purusha, or the universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the original source of all the various sense organs and their presiding deities. The relationship between the Virat Purusha and the presiding deities or the living entities is so intricate that simply by exercising the sense organs which are related to their presiding deities, the Virat Purusha cannot be aroused. It is not possible to arouse the Virat Purusha or to link with the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead by material activities. Only by devotional service and detachment can one perform the process of linking with the Absolute. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. And I have no qualification to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, which is meant for those who have no envy and who have become expert in transcendental, expert in relishing, experiencing transcendental mellows at every moment. I am not qualified, so I am borrowing the qualification from everyone, begging that I can do some service, and that way I can become more serious in my prosecution of devotional service. So, Prabhuji, sorry, actually, in Vishnu Vilas Govindra should have been speaking today, but unfortunately, somehow, yeah, unfortunate that we couldn't get the great fortune of hearing from him. So, Jai Shri Shri Radha, Gopi Janamala, Taibata Bhavan Gauraja, Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, here, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about first, when we read all the verses, it is said that the Virat Purusha was only aroused when consciousness, inspired by reason, entered him. So, this is very important. Generally, we say, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that one who comes to me in knowledge is dearmost to me. So, knowledge is very important, very important. Like His Holiness Chandramali Maharaj was telling me that only after getting jnanam, you will get vijnanam. Because you can get vijnanam directly also by humbly serving, that's true. But if you have jnana, if you have spiritual intelligence, then it really helps to keep the mind under control. So that's why acquiring spiritual knowledge is very, very important, especially for people like me, the neophyte stage. Because if you're always on the soul platform, on the spiritual platform, you're self-realized, you're Jivan Mukta, then you see everything, you see everywhere, you see realized knowledge. Nobody will become unnecessarily upset at you, or even if people become upset at you, you will feel like, oh, that's Krishna's great mercy upon me. And you'll actually be able to see Krishna in the heart of everyone. And one is self-realized, I'm not, but one can see that, and one will see Krishna everywhere. Like, for example, you will see devotees, you'll be immediately reminded of Krishna. You'll be reminded of Krishna's pastimes. That's the highest platform, but that's the platform where you get constant vigyan, constant realization. So until one comes to that stage, it's very helpful to have gyan. That's why Srila Prabhupada spoke lectures, so many lectures about the importance of um, understanding that we are not this body, but we are the spirit soul. We are the spirit soul. We are the spirit soul. So this kind of knowledge is very, very important because it strengthens our spiritual intelligence. Krishna and Bhagavad Gita also. By the use of spiritual intelligence, Arjuna, you please cut your sinful reactions to pieces. So the sword of spiritual intelligence is very, very important. So anyhow, so when consciousness entered the heart of the Virat Purusha, inspired by intelligence, then the Virat Purusha was aroused. So consciousness is the key. Whatever consciousness, Krishna consciousness. But not just Krishna consciousness, but Anukulyana Krishnanushilanam. That's very important. Anukulyana, which means following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. The previous acharyas, the present acharyas, and our authorities. So it all has to be lined up, because spiritual life is a very genuine thing. It's not an artificial thing. It's a genuine thing. It's a natural way of life. So it's not an artificial thing. Like, see, in this world, uh, when people are talking or people have meetings, like you have a meeting here and then someone has a meeting in, connecting that meeting in India, whatever. So people have to put a lot of effort in syncing and making things work. And if there's any mishap anywhere, then immediately there's a big problem. But Krishna conscious spiritual life is not like that. Like, we should know that if Krishna is pleased, that means my authority is pleased. If Krishna is pleased, means my guru is pleased. Or the other way, sorry. If my authorities and devotees are pleased, then um, then Krishna is pleased, right? And if the spiritual master is pleased, Krishna is pleased, and if Krishna is pleased, then one will feel a lot of joy in his heart. So anyhow, so this is a linked up process. Everyone is linked, everyone is connected in Krishna consciousness. So we always remember this thing, that in Krishna consciousness, the reason why people may appreciate us, people may like us, is simply because of Krishna's influence or Krishna's mercy upon us. So they're actually not attracted to us, they're attracted to Krishna's mercy within us. And ultimately they're attracted to Krishna, they're not attracted to us. So Krishna mercifully gives whatever he wants to give. But the ultimate goal of our life is to become attracted to Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees. So I speak for myself that uh, if you are on a spiritual platform, if you are striving to be on the spiritual platform, then these two things will attract you, Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees. So I can speak for myself, I'm very fallen. But if anything else attracts us in this world, then that means we don't have pure desire only for pure devotional service. So what is the solution? What is the solution to have that consciousness that I can always be attracted to Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees? The solution is, Prabhupada says two things. One thing Prabhupada says is to be constantly engaged in the service of Krishna, to be constantly engaged. And second, Prabhupada says that uh, with unflinching faith. This unflinching faith is very, very important. This unflinching faith is what is going to save us at the time of distress. At the time of distress, the time of difficulties, in spiritual difficulty, chanting is not going good or whatever. What is the only thing which can save us? At that time, we can clearly observe when we are not doing so well in our chanting. We'll see that the so-called name and fame, the so-called excellent things all disappear. The only thing will remain is Guru and Krishna service. Now, the only thing we have to do at that time is we have to take shelter of Guru and Krishna service. We just have to take shelter of that. So how will we get the strength to take shelter of that? Because see, generally the materialistic tendency is what? A materialistic tendency is, speak for myself, that when everyone likes you, then you do whatever you want to do. Because generally we have a tendency to derive a lot of strength from name and fame. In the material world, we just have tendency, because that's what we live for, right? People generally live for name and fame. So that's a general materialistic tendency, to live for name and fame. And like whatever people like, people do that. That's a general tendency. So that tendency also unfortunately carries into devotional service. So at devotional service also, we tend to like to do something which people appreciate, or if people appreciate, we become inspired to do our service. If people are not there, we don't become inspired. That's a general tendency. So at the time when we are going through spiritual difficulty or anyone's going through spiritual difficulty, then like I said, all this artificial name thing, all this thing will disappear, and the only thing will remain is Guru and Krishna service. So we have to take very deep shelter of Guru and Krishna service. So the strength to take shelter of Guru and Krishna service comes from developing this unflinching faith. Unflinching faith means that, like Krishna Chandra Thakur says in Madhuri Kadambini, that even though one may not be completely purified, but if he does not take shelter of karma or jnana, but just only take shelter of devotional service, then he is considered uh, to be a pure devotee in practice. So he's not purified, completely purified yet, but he's a pure devotee in practice, which is cultivating the pure devotional mood, which means to only take shelter of Krishna. So we this mood to only take exclusive shelter of Krishna. So at all times we have to take so which means exclusive shelter of Krishna means that even though I speak for myself, very fallen and always failing or always not successful in whatever one wants to do. Actually, that's also another nature of mm, the stage of anartha nivriti, that one is uh, either going up or going down. It's called sometimes thick, sometimes thin. It's called ganatarala. So during this stage, the only thing we have to do is we just have to continue doing what we're doing. Just continue doing what we're doing with a humble mood, with a sincere mood, not giving it up, and not taking shelter of any other, taking shelter of karma or jnana. So as long as we continue taking constant shelter and performing our service, then slowly Krishna will bestow his mercy, and Krishna will again arouse our taste in Krishna consciousness. Because the one most promising thing in bhakti is that bhakti is meant to attain Krishna, and the goal of bhakti is to attain Krishna's grace or to attain love of God. But even through the process, at every step, Krishna is watching our consciousness, and Krishna will reciprocate with our consciousness. So even though we may be failing because of our previous conditioning, even though we may be failing because of maybe committed some offenses or whatever it may be, but if we are still endeavoring to please Krishna, to whatever the best our capacity, we are trying our best to please Krishna, Krishna becomes attracted to that, because Krishna knows that without his causeless mercy, we have no hope. Like we have no hope, because that's the thing about bhakti. Bhakti is not obtained, bhakti is not aroused by previous karma, bhakti is not aroused by any material quality. Bhakti is given as a gift by Krishna's devotees. So the only thing we have to do is Grace Purijan Prabhu mentioned some very nice statement. We have to act in such a way to melt the heart of great soul. We have to act in such a way to melt the heart of great souls. Many times we may ask devotees, exalted devotees, please pray for me, please bless me. But the real blessing will pour from their heart when they become attracted by the actions, by the consciousness. The best example is Narottam Das Thakur. Narottam Das Thakur, he wanted to get initiated by Lokanath Goswami. Lokanath Goswami was completely against that idea. He became angry and choked. But what did Narottam Das Thakur? Narottam Das Thakur acted in such a way that he melted his heart. And because of that, he was able to get his causeless mercy. So that's very hope giving for us, that even though situation may be very, very difficult, and even let's say that we're serving under someone or we're trying to please Krishna, and even though some situation may be there, like that person doesn't want to accept us, that person doesn't want to give us mercy, but still we can take shelter of Narottam Das Thakur's example, and by his blessings, by his inspiration, we can get the intelligence to act in such a way that we can get mercy. Because this is very wonderful that my spiritual master said that sometimes, of course, he said when the spiritual master leaves, but he said sometimes what the spiritual master does, the spiritual master puts disciple through a test. And like normally, when a student studies, the teacher is there with them, teacher answers any question, teacher helps him, but during the time of examination, teacher is quiet. So sometimes I go through these tests in Krishna consciousness, when maybe not that much taste inspiration is coming. It's very rough, but we can at that time we can take shelter of the instructions of the association of devotees, so that we can continue making progress. Because one of Krishna's qualities is Krishna is very, very grateful. So it's just a matter of time. Like His Grace Haripasha Prabhu mentioned, that there is one thing that Krishna does not want to give, and that is pure devotional service. Krishna is ready to give everything else, dharma, artha, kama, everything. But pure devotion service, Krishna doesn't want to give. Because Krishna knows if I give that, then that person, that devotee will completely control me. Like the best example is Mother Yashoda. Like Mother Yashoda, although she is an eternal Ragatmika, eternal associate of Krishna, but just see how she controls Krishna. Like if Mother Yashoda tells Krishna to wake up, Krishna has to wake up. Krishna cannot say, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead and I will decide when I have to wake up. Krishna has to obey her order. So that's the nature of pure devotional service. It completely controls Krishna. So that's why Krishna uh, takes a lot of, tests the person, or Guru tests the person before giving him that. Essentially, one time, one devotee went to His Holiness Gauravan Maharaj after the class and asked Maharaj, Maharaj, please give me Krishna Prema. I want Krishna Prema right now. Maharaj said, yes, I can give you right now, no problem. But you're not ready to accept it. And Maharaj gave an example of a crow. So this crow wanted to do something like whatever. So he went to the blacksmith and gave some metal to be shaped into a hammer. I'm not exactly paraphrasing, but this is the idea. So the blacksmith took the metal and was shaping into a hammer, and naturally he was melting the metal, doing whatever, and it was very hot. So then the crow said, can I give it to me right now? Give it me right now. And blacksmith said, well, I can give it to you, but it's very hot. It's too hot. You can't take it. Crow said, no, no, I want it right now. So then the blacksmith said, okay. So he gave the crow the hammer, the melted, molten metal, and the crow burned to ashes. So Maharaj was saying that you are not ready to receive. And what is that readiness to receive is to basically to clean the heart, to become purified. So ultimately the goal of Krishna consciousness at every step is to Krishna and Guru, they will be pleased to give us the gift of love of God. Actually, that is the greatest wealth of the saintly person. So saintly persons, in the core of their heart, they have this love of God. They have it. And they're looking to give it to someone. But before they decide that, oh, this person I can give or that person I can give, they thoroughly examine that person. Like we have seen the example of all our previous acharyas. Like Jiva Goswami was severely tested by Rupa Goswami. Narottam Das Thakur was severely tested by Lokanath Goswami. So all our Goswamis, they went through this time in their Krishna consciousness when they were severely tested. Although they liberated associates, still they were severely tested. So that's why His Holiness Ranath Maharaj says something very wonderful, that Krishna will put you in that test, and Krishna knows very well that if Krishna puts you in a situation, you have some attraction for material happiness, self gratification, and you have some attraction for Krishna's lotus feet. So Krishna is going to see how much, how hard, how serious you are about um, ignoring that attraction to Maya and choosing that attraction to Krishna. So Prabhupada says that in one lecture, Prabhupada says that's why the path of spiritual advancement is just like a razor. It's like a razor. And he said that the only solace or the only way to overcome, because many times choices in Krishna consciousness are choices on the platform of consciousness, not on the gross platform, the choice of consciousness, but that's what really makes the difference. It's a very subtle thing, it's a very, very minute thing in the consciousness, but that's what actually pleases Krishna. So that is a connection to Krishna. So like uh, sorry, the last line says, only by devotional service and detachment can one perform the process of linking with the absolute. So Krishna is seeing at every moment what is our consciousness, what are, and accordingly, Guru and Krishna are going to give the result. So by constantly um, hearing, especially hearing, when we hear the glories of the Supreme Lord from pure devotees, then we get spiritual strength to become to choose Krishna's lotus feet and ignore Maya's allurements. So yesterday I was hearing a really, really amazing class by His Holiness Sachinandan Maharaj. Just wanted to quote that. I mean, I'm just quoting for my own purification. I have no realization, but just quoting. So this is that Maharaj was giving a class to the devotees in Gita Nagari about how to overcome sense gratification. So it's very like to hear from a pure soul, it is very purifying. So Maharaj said that sense gratification, what to whatever extent it may be, uh, is very difficult to overcome. He said the reason is this. He gave an example. He said one time he went to one place, and one devotee, he wanted to take him in a water body, like in a river. It's not that big in Switzerland. He wanted to take him in his boat. And Maharaj said, no, I don't want to go in the boat. I would prefer to swim. And he told his assistant, and he told that devotee that you both go and you enjoy the ride, you come back and I will swim. So when Maharaj was swimming, after some time, suddenly there was a very severe storm and the water became like very, very turbulent and it became very difficult for them. They were already in deep in the river, and the situation was the boat was about to overturn. It became so dangerous. So Maharaj told some lifeguards that go and save immediately. They're going to lose their life. So they went and saved. And then when these two devotees came back, Maharaj said, "You wanted to take me on a on a cruise. I mean, on a on a ride. You wanted to have some fun, but you see, you almost lost your life. See, this is the situation." Then the devotee says, yes, Maharaj, when there's a storm, then the boat doesn't work. So Maharaj was saying the same way, when situation comes, there's a severe agitation, then nothing works. Nothing works. And Rupa Goswami says that's why not by being not wearing saffron cloth, not being a brahmachari, not by following rules, strict regulations, brahmanical things, will you actually overcome Maya. The only way is to actually um, only bhakti to Krishna. And Prabhupada also quotes that only by Krishna's pleasure, only when Krishna is satisfied, will we actually come out of Maya. So Maharaj he said, how to overcome Maya? What is the solution? Maharaj said that where is bhakti? Bhakti is born in the association of devotees. So then Maharaj said that our association with devotees should be in such a way that we become inspired. So when Maharaj said when we come together and we speak about Krishna, specifically about Krishna and Krishna's activities, then that creates a very inspiring environment where Krishna becomes active and Maya has no entry. So Maharaj was stressing that the important thing is that there has to be specifically talk about Krishna, and it has to be like very, very particular, like one is very particular. It has to be about Krishna and Krishna's past and Krishna's activities. And in that way, what happens is one gets the strength to overcome Maya. And of course, that famous verse is there, I don't remember, that Maharaj was saying that when devotees come together and speak about Krishna, sing about Krishna, um, chant about Krishna, hear about Krishna, then what happens is that when Krishna is pleased, with the way the devotees are discussing, then Krishna appears in their midst, and two things happen. So one thing is the desire to make rapid advancement is born, that strong desire, that strong greed is born. And second thing which happens is that each devotee, or we inspire each other to give up sense gratification. So these two things happen. So Maharaj is quoting this, that how it's very, very important for us to take association, to constantly be in the association of devotees, and to take association of great souls. And in that way, constantly we can be inspired in Krishna consciousness, and we can keep making progress on and on and on. So Maharaj said that is the way to overcome this, because ultimately we are not fighting, we are not battling against anyone, we're just battling against our own nature, our own anarthas, that's it. Because you see pure devotees, that they are completely pure, they're free from anarthas, and as a result of that, they have no problem. They may undergo some problems here and there, but their life is so peaceful, so blissful. You see, everyone cooperates with them, everyone listens to them, and of course, there are exceptions, but generally you see that their life is so blissful, and they are so blissful that even though someone may be against them, still because of their contact with the spiritual world, they're able to change the heart of that person instantly, and that is Prabhupada's genius. Prabhupada would melt the heart of a person instantly, because Prabhupada would immediately bring them on soul platform. So Prabhupada would just bring them on soul platform, and on the mental platform, intellectual platform, they may have rejected so many things, but Prabhupada just brought them to the soul platform for a second, for a minute, and they just pointed this. My whole life I was completely against this idea, this etc. etc. So that's the most promising aspect of pure devotional service, and that's why it makes sense to do everything we can to become a pure devotee. So that's the should be the goal, um, is to become a pure devotee. Somehow or other, we just have to struggle, we have to stick it out, we have to continue the process to convince Krishna that even though I may not be qualified, I may have done so many things in the past which are against Krishna, against Guru, but right now, at least in this life, I want to do everything it takes. I'm willing to do anything it takes to convince Krishna, to convince Guru that I want pure devotional service. So that's the inspiring example of all our spiritual masters. And so it's very, very important to take the association of those who are actually following Guru, who are actually pleasing Guru. Like in basic workshop, you can see like how much is pleasing. Like any spiritual, any sannyasi come, they're so pleased just by seeing him. They can understand that this is real surrendered soul, real surrender, real devotion. So hopefully, while mercy, all great exalted devotees, I can practice Krishna consciousness in a way that is very pleasing to my authorities, my Shiksha gurus, and spiritual master. So So Prabhupada is saying this one last comment, and Prabhupada is saying that in this purport, that it is not possible to arouse the Virat Purusha or to link with the Absolute Personality of Godhead by material activities, which is not possible. It's only possible by devotional service and detachment. So that's the only way. That's the only way. There's no way to arouse it. Arouse means basically to activate their mercy, to activate their mercy. Like one time Shipadayana Prabhu was saying this, he said you may, bring the deities of Radha and Krishna, you may do Pran Pratishtha, you may, cook a big feast, you may have a kirtan, but ultimately, mm, uh, it's up to Krishna whether he wants to descend or not. It's up to him. He's independent. He's completely independent. But then he said, um, if you really, if you really have an absolute necessity for Krishna, you really desire Krishna very, very deeply, and if you have that deep desire, and Krishna understands that without him, there is no other hope for you. And Krishna, like the way Krishna went to Draupadi when Krishna was completely convinced that without his mercy, Draupadi has no hope. And Krishna was completely convinced that Draupadi is 100% dependent on him. So then he went. So when Krishna is convinced to that level that you're completely dependent 100%, then only Krishna is going to appear. So I'd like to end here. Please forgive me. I spoke anything not qualified. Spoke. It's not my realization. I'm just repeating the words of great souls. Anyone has any question or comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavarpanam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, Draupadi example is, it's beyond our level. Could you please give me a recent, understandable example, not understandable, to relate the example that how to completely surrender. But we are a householder, we have a kids, and we are living in Kali Yuga. How to do the complete surrender?
Yeah, I'm not completely surrendered, so I'm not qualified to answer this question. Rosie would like to. So, yeah, I mean, from what I understand is that complete surrender does not manifest overnight. It's a series of steps. And so, I mean, like His Grace Vrindavan Prabhu recently said, like you were also there, that one time they asked His Holiness Rangnath Maharaj that, how do you know if you're pleasing Krishna? How you know you're pleasing Guru? And he said, just be honest with yourself. So the point is that uh, I mean, I'm nobody to give instruction to anyone. First of all, you're all better devotees than me. But I mean, according to your time, place, and circumstance, if you feel in your heart that you're doing the best you can to serve Krishna, to please Krishna, then that means you're surrendering to Krishna. And Krishna knows very well like how much you can do. So if you're doing the best you can to please Krishna, like at the end of the day, you say, yes, I tried my best to please Krishna with all my impurities. Yes, I tried my best. So if you can say that, I mean, sincerely in your heart, you don't have to share with others. Then, yeah, then that is surrender. If you are sincerely engaged in Krishna's service, and if you pray with an open heart, then definitely you get some reciprocation. You can know like how much Krishna is pleased. And I mean, of course, I'm not pure, but you can. And there are a number of things, of course. One thing is Krishna, and one thing is authorities, one thing is devotees. You can understand. So, and if you're doing the best you can in your current situation, then the result will be, I mean, I'm not at the platform, but the result will be that your heart will be overflowed with joy, 100% guaranteed. Because Krishna will definitely reciprocate with you. I mean, definitely 100%. The holy name will definitely reciprocate. Deities will definitely reciprocate. Everything reciprocate with you. Because when Krishna sees you're doing your best, Krishna is very pleased. Guru is very pleased. It doesn't matter whether Guru is personally in front of you or not, but you feel that joy in the heart. So yeah, that's one way to see. Because I know there's so many permutations, so many conditions. So it's difficult to give an exact example. But you can see like in our Shastras, like for example, Shivananda Sen. Shivananda Sen was a householder. He had a son, but Mahaprabhu was so pleased with it that Mahaprabhu ordered his servant Govinda when they went to Jagannath Puri to give his remnants every day, right? So that Mahaprabhu was that much pleased. Now, on the other hand, Raghunathas Goswami, he had to do so much to please Mahaprabhu. Like he had to, like his renunciation, he had to keep. I mean, of course, we can imitate, but just for the sake of example, he had to keep increasing his renunciation to make Mahaprabhu happy. I mean, someone may think that this is too much. Why is he increasing it? But no, that's what his Mahaprabhu wanted him to surrender that. That's why he was doing. So, yeah, Shivananda Sen is a very good example. I mean, in that sense, that how he was engaged in whatever activities, household activities, but at the same time, he was serving devotees. He was doing everything he could. And Maharaj Pratapruta is another wonderful example that even though he was a king, he was doing everything he could. He could, like how he gave Ramananda Roy full pension, etc., etc. So, if you're doing everything you can to please Krishna, then yeah, that's the thing. And of course, we can't imitate, we can't like just download a situation and apply it to our personal life. But yeah, another very good example is like Prabhupada disciples. Like I'll give one example. This came to my mind is Mother Pulangana. I don't know if you know, she's actually from Bhaktivedanta Manor. She's a proper disciple, and she went back to Godhead. So her only service was she was not a preacher. She was not a big person, nothing. Only thing she used to do was she was a housewife. Like she, she had a daughter, as far as I know. The only service, main service, maybe she, of course, she did many other service. Main service she used to do is to make sandesh, and she used to make different, flavors of sandesh for Radha Gokulananda. That's her only service, main service. So, just by that one service, by doing that service, is she attains spiritual world. Like my spiritual master was speaking with her last few days. I got some recording, and Maharaj was saying, so you're seeing Krishna? You're seeing Radharani? She said, yes, I'm seeing. Very confident that I am, yes, I'm seeing. So that's a good example that you don't, to start with, you don't have to worry about all the small things, but first, focus on one service that we have to Krishna. Like for example, you're doing the garden service. So you focus on that. You put your life and heart and everything into that. And then automatically, I think all the other details will follow and be revealed by Krishna and by Guru. So that's the example that you think of.
Sure, Prabhuji, definitely. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very grateful.
Okay. So nobody else has any other question or comment online? Offer my obeisances, lotus feet of all the devotees. Manchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha prasanam pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Anantakoti Vaishnava Nikiteshwara Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dhanavad Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Dhanavad Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.